Okay, so last week's was not yet put online. It's only an audio shiur. It will be posted after today, but I was asked to do some sort of recap. But yeah, let me explain. I think we have to explain. Okay, 1 second. So we're going to, first of all, we're going to start. We are going to, okay, today's shiur we're going to dedicate for Refuah Shlema for Mr. Simon. Refuah Shlema, our normal recorder. And thanks to Yaacov Citron for coming through for us. Okay. And also for Refuah Shlema for Yitzhak ben Fega, Sipora Basara, Besel Shachol Yisrael. We're also davening still for Yochanan ben Rachel Leah, who is the person who donated our beautiful Sefer Torah that we have. And he's improved, but there's a way to go for Shlema. Okay, for anybody else, Besel Shachol Yisrael. David Gittel ben, for the rabbits. David Gittel Bas Bluma, and there's Chava Bas Ita Riva, Chava Basia, Bas Ita Riva. Okay, Besel Shachol Yisrael. Menachem Yisrael, Ben Miriam. Okay, thank you. I know you were davening for someone in the family, right? Oh, push them. Okay, so last week we began to bridge Bereshis and Noach, and what happened was a number of things came up in the shiur, and then there was a request. So maybe you could explain, Sandy could explain what was requested, because we touched on a lot of subjects. Last week's shiur was entitled KAVA-NOACH, as in Judge Kavanaugh. KAVA-NOACH. KAVA-NOACH. So I'm going to explain a little bit what went on there, and then maybe you'll want to say, well, okay. Okay, so in a brief recap, we always connect the end of the Torah at the beginning of the Torah. The end of the Torah is Le'inei Kol Yisrael, and at that point, Rashi explains that what was the last and greatest act of the Kol HaYad HaChazaka, the great mighty deeds of Moshe Rabbeinu, was to do what? To bring the Torah to Klal Yisrael? No. To break the Luchos. The greatest act of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, which epitomized his life, was the end of Bereshis, Yad HaChazaka, bigger than what is referring to in the previous psukim, which is the Makos in Mitzrayim, bigger than even splitting Yam Suf, bigger even than Kabbalas Torah, that Rashi refers to at the end of Devarim. He says, Le'inei Kol Yisrael, Bereshis. Why? Why is breaking the Luchos the most important thing? And it's anthological, because that was the pinnacle of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, that he should receive the Luchos from Hashem, which were not even man-made. They were completely... Can you imagine that Hashem chooses you, of all mankind, to give this otherworldly thing on which the entire world rests, and you break it before delivering it to the designated owners? You could be, called into question for that. But what does Hashem say to Moshe Rabbeinu? Asher shibarta, yashar koach sheshibarta. So he says, make another set of luchos, right? That are like the first luchos, asher shibarta, yashar koach. Why did Hashem thank Moshe for destroying Torah? We say Bereshis, Bishvil Yisrael Shenikra Rashis. The world was created for the Jewish people. Bishvil Torah Shenikra Rashis. So if the whole object of the world is to bring Torah to the Jewish people, how could the greatest act in Moshe Rabbeinu's life be to break the Torah so that it should not be delivered to the Jewish people? That was our question. So what did we answer? What could be the answer? Okay. What happens if Moshe Rabbeinu delivers the Luchos at that time to the Jewish people? What would they be guilty of? Avodah Zarah. Lo Sinach, they would have chosen another god, another love, as it were. It would have been the end of the Jewish people. Well, if that's the end of the Jewish people, that's the end of Torah, and that's the end of the world, because Bishvil Torah Shenikra Rashis. So it's actually very logical that Moshe broke the Luchos, because the objective of the world is that Klal Yisrael should be able to receive the Torah, and at that moment, they were unable to receive the Torah. And since they were unable to receive the Torah at that time, the correct decision was to buy time, to break the luchos, meaning Klal Yisrael is not able to receive them, and they're going to get instead, there'll be tshuva, there'll be a tshuva process, and instead they're going to get something a little bit less. They're going to get luchos shnios, which will not be as extraordinary as the first luchos, but they will last forever, and they will never be broken. Until this day, they're not broken. They exist somewhere underneath Har Habayis. We know that. The Rambam says that. The Rambam says that the only reason why they were able to build the second Beis HaMikdash, what are you building? There's nothing here. There was no Aron, right? What are you building? He said because they knew the exact place where the Aron was supposed to be. We know it was hidden in an antechamber below ground by Yoshua HaMelech, in a chamber that was created by Shlomo HaMelech. That there was this emergency thing which they could actually lower the Aron into a vault, and it's been there ever since. And in there are both sets of luchos, the broken luchos and the whole luchos. So what does it mean that Moshe broke the luchos? He said, if Klal Yisrael is not ready, we have to utilize something that was also created before the world, and that's the vehicle called tshuva. So what we find, in fact, the Baal HaTurim quotes in his first remarks to Sefer Bereshis, refers to a Gemara which speaks about the 7 things that were created prior to the world's existence. Okay? All right. So, this is Gemara in Psachim, Daf Nun, Daled Amud Aleph. And he says 7 things were created prior to the world. Okay? The first one was... Now, and what does it mean that they were created? It doesn't necessarily mean in a physical sense, because there wasn't necessarily anything physical at that time, but the concept and the core energy that would then concretize into these things later on. The Beis HaMikdash, the Torah. Number 3, tshuva. Number 4, Gan Eden, which is a place where man could do his tikkun and come to the ultimate reward. And the opposite of Gan Eden is Gehenna, which is man. So this is the concept of reward and punishment, of free will. That was created before. The Kisei HaKavod, which means God's presence in the world, that Hashem has a Shechina that wants to reside among us. That idea of the Shechina. And then, of course, Shemo Shel Mashiach. Shemo Shel Mashiach means the concept that after all is said and done, there ultimately will be a happy ending to the story, and Klal Yisrael will eventually do tshuva and receive all these wonderful gifts, the Torah, the Beis HaMikdash, Mashiach. Hence, Moshe Rabbeinu followed the script exactly, because this is the story. If we don't get to the Kisei HaKavod and the Beis HaMikdash being with us, meaning that the Aron Kodesh is with us, which contains the Luchos, then we've lost the blueprint of the world. Okay, so it's a really, sort of my take on it, but it's maybe an original thought, but it's not a thought that's based on anything esoteric. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, now, then we move to the next thing, which is that the word Bereshit in itself carried with it all the information that we would ever need to fulfill this process from the beginning to the end. Okay, so Bereshit stands for many things, but the first thing is that the Vilna Gaon said that the word, the pasuk Bereshis contains how many words? Bereshis, bara, Elokim, es, hashamayim, ve'es ha are at 7 words. So right off the bat, the first pasuk in the Torah reveals to us that the number 7 is the key to our existence. Now, why would number 7 be the key to our existence and the whole plan of Hashem? What is Hashem working towards? We're working towards Mashiach, which is relevant, right? Which is the Kedushas Hayom. These things all, as the Kabbalah say, express themselves in the realm of time, in the realm of people, in the realm of space. So what is Mashiach in the realm of time? Which day? Shabbos. What is it in the realm of, how shall I say, in the realm of a person? Mashiach. What is it in the realm of Makom? Where is that? Makom? Beis HaMikdash, right? and there's the kedushos, the levels of kedusha. Now the truth is, as we've explained many times, 7 only represents the lower part. Bereshis with the concept of rashis. Now I'm gonna tell you again. This is just the Biba Kitzur from last week. Bereshis does not mean. How does everybody translate Bereshis? Not true. Wrong. Wrong. How do I know it's not rashis? Because rashis means it's a sequence. What was the first pasuk? We just said Shemayim v'Aretz. Okay, so that means what came first? Shemayim, and then came Aretz. No, look at the second pasuk. Where's the second pasuk? Va'aretz haisa tohu vavo. What's that? Choshech al pnei tahom. Oh, so there was something called choshech. Oh, there was something called tahom. Oh, v'ruach Elokim merachevas al pnei hamayim. What's ruach Elokim? Where's the mayim coming from? Where's the choshech coming from? Hello? There is no sequence. And Rashi proves this in his Perush in a very extensive way. Rashi teaches us, do not fall into the trap to think that rashis means in the beginning, because it does not speak about a beginning. In fact, according to Shitas Rashi, according to Chazal, every single thing that was created and will ever be created was already created when? In that first moment, in that first day. What do you mean? That's what the pasuk is coming to say. All of the elements of the world, and we explained last time. Okay, there are basic 4 elements to the universe. What are the 4 elements of the universe? Show me that in the pasuk, in the second pasuk. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim. Shamayim is a shumayim. Vesa aretz. Aretz is afar. That's the element of earth, right? Now, where do you get ruach? Where do you get ruach from? Ruach Elokim, ruach efes al pnei hamayim, and the mayim separates from the eish. All of the elements, all of the potential that would ever be, is created, except it has to differentiate itself. It has to develop and select and move towards its potential. What is rashis? Rashis is the first fruits of your labor at the end of the process. So, Bereshis does not mean in the beginning. It means with the concept of a process. Hashem created the world. Not all at once, but the potential, and we go step by step by step by step. So, and the first thing that Hashem did was say, Vayihi Or. Or some say Bereshis is a mimer of creation. Some say no, Bereshis was an introduction, and Yehi Or was the first words of Hashem, Machloket, in Chazal. But let's assume that. Why? Because Or, Ner, Mitzvah, V'Torah, Or. How are you going to sort out this mess? How is anything going to progress towards its tachlis? Only through the medium of Or, and Or is the Torah. Ki Ner, Mitzvah, V'Torah, Or, and then Ner Elokim, Nishmat Adam. Hashem gave us within, Achelek Elokam Mimal. He taught us Torah in utero, like the Gemara says. And we have the capacity to receive that Or. In fact, what did Hashem do with the best part of the Or? Where did he hide it? He hid it for the tzaddikim lasid lavo, and Rashi quotes that Chazal. But where did he hide it? Where is it? So, according to the Balaturim and other Meforshim as well, it was hidden in the Torah itself. In the Torah itself. In both the written and oral Torah. That's where it is. Now I'll tell you that I read up about the Sephardic rabbis like the Baba Sali in particular. And he obviously was a person that had vast command of everything in this world, kind of conformed to his will, as we know, many miracles that he created, etc. But there's one thing that he constantly did, was learn Gemara. People don't know that about him. He was constantly reviewing the Gemara, and he used to say, Hashem gave me the Gemara as a gift. Meaning, in every spare moment that he had, he was saying over, reviewing vast amounts of Gemara. Now you would say, why would a man who's such a makubal, who's so deep into the world of the esoteric, learning Gemara all day? You would think he should be reading Zohar all day, or he should be reading other Svarim all day. Why is he reading Gemara all day? And now you'll understand, based on this, he was accessing the light. You cannot access the light unless you're connected to the Torah. That's why those who are most deeply engaged in the Torah develop what's known as Ruach HaKodesh. Because they start to be, Hashem reveals to them the secrets of the Torah, but only on condition that they're davuk to the Torah, that they're learning it constantly. And that we know that even someone who has no interest in anything in the realm of, although anybody who learns Torah inevitably is interested in the hidden parts of Torah, because it's part of Torah like anything else, like the Chofetz Chaim quoted extensively from the Zohar, extensively. I mean, there's no end to the amount of quotes that in his Svarim that the Chofetz Chaim quotes from the Zohar. What is the Chofetz Chaim learning Zohar for? He was the Mishnah Brura. He was the halachist of his day, right? He should be focused on halacha. No, Zohar. Why? Because that's part of Torah. But if you want to access the or, that's why it's or gamuz l'tzadikim. It's hidden for them, but they can go get it. You go get it. It's hidden, but it's not hidden so far. But you have to be a tzaddik. You have to conquer your wills and your drives and your focus and your attention and connect to the Torah in a very deep way. Okay, so now to sort out the mess of creation, the process of differentiation. I want to mention to you that in the realm like Lahavdil of Daros, Torah is the core wisdom out of which other wisdoms emanate, right? That was the mistake that we made, to think that wisdom, secular wisdom, stands alone. It does not stand alone. It's integrated within, and the Vilna Gaon was very adamant about this. He would tell his students to go master one of the 7 sciences. And the 7 sciences, one of them is psychology, understanding the human intellect. And then there's other sciences like geometry, right? And to study the heavens, which is astronomy. And then there's like chemistry and mathematics, right? So all those are the sciences. There's also a science of language. In other words, the idea of how to use language to make logical arguments, which you would call probably philosophy. We'd probably call that today philosophy, but to argue or make proofs using human logic, that's also a chachma. But guess what? The chachma is all rooted in Torah, and if you detach it from its roots, then it loses it's like you detach a guf from a neshama. It has no neshama. And eventually the purpose of the Zman of Mashiach will be to unite science and spirit. This is where we're up to, ladies. The world is rapidly on a collision course of science and spirit. What they're going to find out is that everything in science will be rooted in something to do with the creation, which was created with what? The letters of the Torah. In fact, I discovered yesterday there was somebody who I don't think is particularly kosher, but wrote a very interesting book on how to use Kabbalah for wellness, to make yourself healthy. And he said basically for 3 things: for prayer, for meditation, and for ritual, which means mitzvos, to do mitzvos. And went into the Sefer Yetzirah of Avraham Avinu, because he quotes Aryeh Kaplan, so he read Aryeh Kaplan, so he knew something about it. And he was explaining the concepts within Sefer Yetzirah, how the world was created with a cube. It's called, imagine a cube with each side of it different letters, kind of like tefillin. But it is the secret inside Sefer Yetzirah with which Hashem created space. So when science ultimately gets to the core of their studies, right, and all the questions that they have, quantum physics, the issues of what light is, they're going to find out that these were concepts that are already rooted in our Torah. And then, Baruch Hashem, it'll be Shmo Echad, Hashem Echad v'Shmo Echad. Then they'll start listening to us, and they'll say, whoa, you guys had all this information, why didn't you tell us? We have a okay. So So therefore, the idea in psychology, which is one of the sciences which is healthy, and this is very, very important, is the concept of differentiation. When a child grows up, if the parents are overly involved or under-involved, it's no good. If they're overly involved, the child can't develop an identity of their own. If they're under-involved, the child can't learn because they're not engaged and they can't also develop enough. Right? You have to let the other person be another person. Even within a marriage, it's the same thing. If the two people have no sense of selfhood within the marriage, then that's also not the best. We call that a hostile takeover. One party swallows the other. Okay, they're there, but they're not there, so to speak, with their own essence and will and identity. So too in every single thing. Everything had to be separated. So Hashem went through the process and demonstrated it for us. First, he separates between the Mayim and the Mayim, right? And he makes an Eish and a Mayim. And then he separates between the Afar and the Yam, right? He separates earth. Yeah, everything to show that each thing has its place, Leminehu, to its species. And then what happened? Everything looked great, and then we ran into a problem. And the problem was, and this we did not speak about last week, was the Nachash. So I'm just retracing some of the general concepts, okay? What happened with the Nachash? What happened? So the boundaries of man, animal, and the above realm started to break down because of our bechira, our choices that were wrong. How did Adam and Chava break a boundary? What boundary did they break that they weren't supposed to? What they were not supposed to partake of what? They said das. Why not? Why not? Because Hashem said so. What was Hashem's kavana? What was Hashem's kavana? But why give them that sort of tantalize? It's not fair, That's what Adam said. Not fair. She made me do it. And he's called a kafoi tov. He says, I gave you this wife to be a helpmate, to be a companion, everything, and you're blaming her? So Adam was a kafui tov. He did not realize all the good that it was. Hashem gave them the understanding that there has to be a boundary between man and God. The minute a person thinks they're God, I once heard a story from Abe Tversky about addicts in Eretz Yisrael. They're recovering from alcohol. So a lot of them grew up let's put it that way, atheistic. And the first thing they go into when they get to these recovery rooms is that they see that the person that's going to help them not drink or drug is God, and they're not so comfortable with that. So they change it to God of your own understanding, or higher power, or however we want to interpret it. Okay, so you interpret it your way, I'll interpret it my way. The main thing is there's something other than you, that's greater than you, that's going to make you better. So they went around to this guy who's kibbutz his whole life, a bald guy, never did, nothing in Kippur. And they start saying to him, no, so you talk about God. He goes, well, I learned one thing in this meeting. He goes, I don't know if I believe in God, but I learned one thing, that I'm not God. That much I learned. So that's lesson number one. We are not God. Why is that important, that we should be differentiated from God? Because without differentiation, there is no relationship. You can't have a relationship with somebody if you are them. So Hashem wanted Adam and Chava, mankind, to have a relationship with him. So there had to be a boundary. And he created the boundary. And he said, if you break the boundary, there's going to be an admixture of Tov and Ra. It's not going to be what I intended. Because what does Hashem keep saying again and again in the creation story? Vayar Hashem, Ki Tov. Hashem doesn't even want to mention the word Ra. In fact, Rashi says that Rashi points out Chazal that Hashem says, Ulechoshech kara laila. He didn't want to say the word Laila. He said, this choshech, that's going to be the Laila. But he didn't want to even designate anything as Laila. Laila is the opposite of Tov. It's darkness. Yom is the semel of good. Laila is the semel of the absence of good. Yom is or, when there is the or of Hashem, and there is or of Torah, and you can make sense out of what you're supposed. You can differentiate yourself, and you can differentiate between good and evil in the world. But or Laila is you cannot differentiate between anything. There is no difference between anything. In dark, it's blankets. Yeah.
Wasn't the Torah example the absolute of this, where they say they're not going to have a relationship with God because there's no boundary,
that's
breaking all boundaries.
They definitely wanted to break into the boundary of heaven. There's no question. And it's a hard thing for us to understand. But the Tower of Babel, what they were basically saying was exactly that point. Hashem is not different than us. That's a very good point. That's exactly what the point is. We're equal to Hashem. He's not going to decide whether there's going to be a mabul. We're going to decide. Now, as I mentioned last time, where did this ridiculous idea come from? It wasn't as ridiculous as you think, because we learned that as a result of the bilbul, the eating from Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, and all the confusion, right? Even all of the world, and that's the story of the mabul, started to get confused and mixed up, so that the angels from above came down and started interacting with man and creating life. Right? We mentioned the two angels, Azza and Uzzah. Those were the bad guys that didn't want man to be created. They didn't want man, interestingly enough, they didn't want man because they didn't want to have anybody else have a relationship with Hashem. They didn't want to share Hashem with anybody. And we find that again when Hashem was about to give the Torah. What happened? The angels came and said, no, why should you? And basically what Hashem told the Malachim is that I really am more interested in a relationship with man than I am with you. Because you don't have free will. And I want somebody who chooses me. So for example, in a relationship, if somebody makes you a forced marriage, right? The father says to the girl, like they do in many, they still do it in Arab countries, what? Or shotgun marriage, and they say, you're 10 years old, you're going to marry this guy who's 46, right? And that's it. He's got a lot of money, you'll have a good life, and that's all. So she may end up loving him or appreciating him, but there was never a choice. Hashem says, I want you to love me by choice. I want you to choose me. And if there is no choice, then it's chaser in the ahava, chaser in the connection, because you were compelled to do it. So before we get ahead of ourselves, let's go back. So what happened with Adam, Chava, and the Nachash? Man existed on a level far greater than anything we know today. Who can prove that to me? How long did people live in the first generation? Close to 1,000 years. Adam himself lived close to 1,000 years. We don't even know exactly their appearance, height, and dimension, but we do know one thing. That after eating from the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, there was a diminishing of the or. And we mentioned last time, or is spelled Aleph, Vav, Resh. And skin is spelled Ayin, Vav, Resh. So what happens when you put something in front of the light that's opaque? You can't see the light. Did you ever put your finger on a light bulb? Does it look like it shines through your finger? Yeah. Does it shine through a lot? Not really. The difference between Adam and us now is the difference between putting your finger on a light bulb and not putting your finger on a light bulb. That's literally the difference. Adam shone with the Or of Hashem, shone with it, and it gave him the Or Haganuz, the intellect, the secrets of creation were with him, the knowledge. He knew everything. Just like who knows everything? A baby in utero knows everything. Before he goes out and chooses Tovara and starts making problems, a baby knows everything. They're connected to the light. In fact, that's what the Gemara Nida says. It's like a candle burning over his head. The original or that Hashem put aside for the tzaddikim is revealed to him. Say, go, now you go and find the or. Reconnect with the or. So the downgrade was very dramatic. And that's why it says that Hashem made for Adam and Chava kasnos or. He made for them clothing. So it's not only to be meant to be like furs and skins, like Rashi says, rabbit skins and hairs. It literally means that their ore was diminished to such an extent that now it was opaque. They were much more opaque than they ever were. So there was a downgrade. Why was that downgrade important? Well, the Nachash was on a lower level than man. Remember, there are 5 levels to creation that we speak about. What are they? Domem, Someach, Chai, Medaber, and Yisroel, according to Kuzari. Yisroel is the remnant of what man used to be. So Domem is mineral. Chai is, Someach is vegetable, right? Chai is animal. Medaber is man, and then there's something above man called Yisroel. Well, imagine everything was upgraded one level prior to the downfall. If things had much more ore to them, that meant they were in a higher madrega. So that meant that the mineral was like vegetable. Okay, so what does that mean? If you had a rock, it might grow. You could have a gold tree. Not a bad idea. Right? Plant a little gold. Next thing you know, it's sprouting up. Right? I don't know what you feed it. Dollar bills, I'm not sure what you feed it exactly. Fertilizer, but it's going to grow. In fact, it says that in the Beis HaMikdash of Shlomo HaMelech, which recaptured that madrega, that gold grew. They had golden trees. Okay, that means that's what it was originally designed. Okay? The next level up, which we call today vegetable, or someach, actually was more like an animal. What does that mean, it was more like an animal? It would actually, you could have a relationship, like it would move. It would go. It could get you stuff.
It moves down too,
It does move.
but maybe it moves much faster.
But compare it like you could have a catch with a frisbee with a dog. Back then you could do it with your azalea plant. It was relatable. You had a pet plant. You understand? It could do things. It could respond. Maybe it even kind of made noise. We know that they actually kind of emit some sort of
Vibrations.
what?
Like the
Dudaim. They emit some. Right. They emit some sort of energy. But that's what in its higher level. That's what it was. Now let's go to the level of Behemoth, of which who was the wisest of all the animals? The most cunning was the Nachash. So what were they? They were medabrim. They actually spoke. They had intellect and they had intelligence. But they were nowhere near what Adam and Chava were. What? They could walk, they could speak, they could think. They had relationships, they had mates, right? The Gemara says that the Nachash was so sophisticated that Adam would just